show today.
So he said, I'm going to quit lifting. And I said, call me later today. I don't have time to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
So he called me later, and I said, why are you going to quit lifting? He said, oh, I'm worried about my weight, blah, 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 blah. And, we get concerns like that all the time. And I want to say, like, you might be frustrated, but if you stop lifting weights, you 100% guarantee, put money on it, you're going to go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever physique, shape, weight, whatever you're not satisfied with currently, you're going to be a smaller, same person. You're not going to be leaner. I promise. It doesn't work that way.
Let's talk about the
You're
thermic
not-
effect of muscle.
Well, yeah, you're not going to run your way
Amongst other
into
things.
fat loss
Yeah.
because you're going to lose muscle mass too. There's
This
no,
person's trying to run.
no.
Do I?
They're
I know
not
who
trying
you're
to
talking
run.
to?
They're trying to lose weight. And whenever someone tries to lose weight, unless you're a fighter or wrestler and weight matters, like, you're not trying to lose muscle mass.
Yeah.
But no one knows,
Yeah.
like, that's actually what they're doing.
Well,
Like,
and
more
what's-
cardio, and you're going to lose muscle mass.
What's crazy is like more often than not, people come in and they're like, oh, like I want to lose weight, and more often they're like, they mean they want to lose fat, and it's like, okay, that's awesome, we can do that, but that your fat loss is not directly tracked by how much actual weight on the scale number you're losing.
It's not at all.
And it's like, okay, yeah, I can be losing fat all day long and maintain a body weight, for months or whatever, and still be in a deficit in terms of like actually burning fat, and that's okay, and I could see other body changes going on, even though the number on the scale, it doesn't change very much, or it doesn't change at all. That's awesome, and that's the hard part, is that
Yeah. No
like
one wants that
getting
as a
that
goal.
right, because for whatever reason, and it's a societal thing more than
It is,
anything, is
yeah.
that we have this idea that the number on the scale is somehow it's an indicator for, I'm this way, or I'm doing good, or I'm doing bad, because the number on the scale is something. It's a bleeping number. It's just a number. That's all it is.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of women's, sizes and stuff in clothing.
Well,
But-
it's hard. It's like a hard act to kind of talk about and juggle, because, do you believe in health at any size or health at any weight? Because I can't say that I really do. However, at the same time,
There's a range.
weight shouldn't matter so much that you want to just lose weight or just shrink, just be a smaller person,
Right.
And that's hard to get across to people. But I think, like, once you do it for a while, you can kind of figure out where you sit pretty naturally. Like, I could use myself as an example. I sit really naturally, like 160 pounds. And that might seem like a lot to a lot of people. I think a lot of women don't want to weigh that much, but I can do things pretty badly and I still weigh 160 pounds. I can do things really right and still weigh 160 pounds.
You can get away with more.
Well,
Yeah.
And the thing that's crazy is that when you're doing things right, that 160 pounds, you can do more awesome stuff, in my opinion, that are more functional, more usable. And, like, in general, someone who works out and lifts and does these things, no matter what their weight is, they're going to be closer to what most women are looking at as, like, oh, this is the ideal body style that I want, the body image that I want. No matter what the number on the scale is, a lot of those people often weigh more than people think they do,
Yeah.
because they think, like, oh, they must weigh nothing. Well, no, muscle weighs a little more than you think it does.
Yeah. I mean, you guys know my sister Grace.
Right.
She's 17 and she has a body that you would want to look like. Like, she's so muscular. She has just an awesome body, but she weighs like over 150 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And she's embarrassed because she's 17. She's
Right.
in that world right
She's
now.
embarrassed because she has more muscle mass
She's
than
embarrassed
some of
because
the guys her same age.
Yes,
And she's probably
exactly.
faster and stronger than most of them too.
Because also, you're surrounded by these little bitty girls that they do weigh less because they're smaller structure. I mean, she's my sister, so we're built similar.
Right.
We're just bigger bones,
If not that anyone's like aspiring to look like a high-level CrossFit athlete, but just give it a search.
Yeah,
look
see how
up,
much they weigh.
Look up CrossFit girls, and just pick one that looks like you're, like same shape-ish, and they're all really lean. They're all really muscular. You're going to be very surprised how lean they are and how much they weigh. They all will weigh way more than you think.
Yeah.
Because they have so much muscle mass.
Right.
But they're all really lean.
And they look amazing.
How'd they get that way? Well, they just ran all their fat off.
Yeah. No.
No. And if you're really interested in the topic, just look into what they do for a living. And some of the training that they do is obviously a little bit crazy, but they are not shying away from anything. They are training really hard. They're training to build strength. They're training to build muscle.
Well, and on that front, on the idea of not shying away from anything, like a lot of times we get in the fitness community and other things, we get like kind of like almost tribal about like, well, I'm a CrossFitter and I'm a weightlifter, I'm a power lifter, I'm a strongman, I'm a runner, and it's like you can only do this one thing, and it's like, well, why?
Yeah.
Like, or I'm a hiker, I only hike. I'm a rock climber, I only rock climb. Well, why don't we do all of those things? Because then you get the benefit of all of those things. You can run a little bit if you want to and you enjoy it. Cool. You can lift weights and get the benefits of building muscle and all the things that go into that. And you can do whatever you want, and all of those bits and pieces put together help build total health and help build something that you're building a little bit of muscle, you're gaining the cardio, so your heart is staying healthy, but you're also oftentimes building a physique that's useful and is closer to usually to what you want to see, aesthetically speaking. Rather than if you only did one of those things religiously, and you're not risking the injury that comes along with only being a one-trick pony, basically.
Mm-hmm. Years ago, I remember being at a wedding, and this guy looked the part as far as a cyclist. He was tall, he was very skinny, no muscle mass,
quads the size of like dinner plates, like just. And
he knew that.
I don't think cyclists have that big of quads. Do you?
They can. They fairly big quads and calves, especially
comparatively.
I do see the calves.
Well, sprinters, especially sprinters.
Yeah.
But this guy, he knew that I was in the fitness industry and stuff, and he said something about lifting weights and said, yeah, it never seemed to work with me. It always seemed to hurt my joints. And I immediately wanted to say, well, the research,
not doing it right.
the research actually shows that you're wrong. Like, there's no research that shows that, as long as you're with a qualified coach or you're doing it appropriately, that lifting weights is harmful. It's not. It's beneficial for any age. But I didn't want to say that. I just thought maybe it's because
we're at a wedding.
Well, yeah, I'm like, I want to drink beer. I don't want to tell you that you're kind of wrong for thinking this way or whatever. I don't really care. It's just he's taller. He has longer limbs. Of course, trying to do some kind of strength training or like trying to build muscle is going to be a little bit more painful or difficult. Because you haven't done it.
Yeah, an adjustment phase. Yeah.
You're in your 60s. Guess what? For anybody in your 60s starting to lift weights, it's probably there's going to be some literal
Well, it'd be the same
growing
thing.
pains.
If I jumped on a bicycle and tried to keep up with that guy, like, oh yeah, it doesn't work for me. I'm really out of breath.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's got to be like that for a minute.
Yeah. It hurts your lungs. Don't do it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good reason.
You see, it's the same thing. Is it not? It is. Oh, side stitch. Running's terrible. It's like, no, you're just out of shape. You're not breathing correctly.
Well, and this could spark an entire topic that I don't think we want to get into now. But like, it's so crazy the amount of, aversion to discomfort that we've developed in like, especially this country, but just in general. Like we don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to be bad at anything. Yeah. And so then we avoid those things because it's like, oh, like I'm not going to be good at it. Oh no, I'm going to sit on my couch and I'm going to, just feed, that never ending cycle.
Okay. Today's Monday. My pastor had a great sermon yesterday. And one of the things he was talking about was, like choose your hard. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things is like, you're hard.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to be in shape and it's really hard to be out of shape.
Yeah.
It's really hard both ways. It's hard. He said it in like a lot of things. It was like, it's hard to have a good marriage. It's a lot of work. It's really hard to have a bad marriage. Ask anybody that's gone through that, like all these different things. So anyways, it was just really true. People don't want to do hard things, but hey, do that for a while. It's going to be really hard. Things are just tough.
Right. And the more, generally speaking, especially in the fitness world, the more hard things you do, the easier those things become, and then you can do more cool hard things.
I would argue that it doesn't necessarily becomes easier.
That same level of thing becomes easier. You can move on to something.
You become better, but the discipline and adherence to whatever habit you're happening to do, that improves massively, so that whatever you happen to be doing, it's actually easier to do it. But whatever you do actually becomes harder and harder and harder the better you get at it.
Right. I
The
would
more
agree with that.
fine-tuned it is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which his whole message was like sharpen your axe.
Yep.
Sharpen your
the
axe.
sword,
Yeah.
yep. Mm-hmm.
So like stop just working so hard with a dull axe. Like take a minute and get better at it.
I mean, sometimes you got to do that to figure out that it's dull.
Yeah,
Right.
That's probably true.
So really quick, this is episode 15.
It's a long
Just,
intro.
right, we got a long intro on this one today. So yeah, we're it's episode 15 with the whole group. We're gonna have some good conversations about all kinds of fun things. We got kind of got a myriad of topics we're gonna cover today. So
Yeah.
Aaron is the gatekeeper. You know,
That's
keeps
not
us
true at all.
You know, the guiding force that keeps
Well,
us moving.
I love like random kind of misconception type topics. I love that stuff. I could talk all day about that stuff. Really.
Yeah, one on your mind.
We need to do a whole podcast on comfort though, just for fun.
Oh,
moving
comfort?
forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once we got.
Yeah, there's
push
some
on that.
fun ones, but for me, the comfort stuff, man, I just go to the brutal ones.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
what?
Like the most uncomfortable times for me, like just being in the cold type
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, brutal. Like sleep, I think, and cold is to me like the hardest thing to deal with. Like
Sleep in the cold, like
Either
so
one.
together or like
Or
separate
together,
colors?
sleep.
deprivation
but like
period.
true sleep deprivation,
Yeah.
not just like, well, I sleep 4 to 6 hours a night. That's not sleep deprivation. That's nothing. That it's painful.
You want to tell people what sleep deprivation you've experienced so they can shut up about that?
Not really, because I don't want to make it seem
You
like I'm tough.
Well, and you also don't want to like encourage those people that are like, oh, I can sleep 4 hours a night and get away with it for 6 months.
Oh,
God,
the
don't
badge of honor
you
kills
can get
me.
away with
It
being
kills
a
me.
turd for a while,
right.
you know?
So on the cold thing, really quick, there was a study that I was looking at. I haven't read like super in depth to it, so like it says take this for what it is in terms of surface information. But a study they looked at showed that 64 degrees, because you're kind of talking about being cold.
Yeah.
64 degrees is allegedly the ideal temperature to keep your house for
That's what we keep it at.
optimized fat loss, because basically it's temperature where if you're not like wearing any external layers,
Yeah.
your body, you're trying to thermoregulate, basically will shiver enough to kind of have boost your
Just because we're cheap, all winter it's 62 to 64.
right.
in
I
our
mean,
house.
it's the same way.
In
yeah.
the summer, though, I mean,
I
we're
Because
lucky
we're-
if it gets under 70.
right, because we're all so cheap. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I love hearing about
Somebody-
the temperature and whose household like is set at what time
yeah.
of year,
Yeah.
and it's never usually. Well, it could be this or it could be that. No, it's usually one number in the summer, one number in the winter, and there's no like get out if you don't like it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Super strict.
I don't like to turn the AC on, so we have windows open for as long as we can.
Yeah,
Oh,
me too.
Yeah.
I hate being hot. Like I despise being
Yeah,
hot.
you talked about this.
I hate
Go
I hate
outside.
sweating.
It's better outside. You know what I mean? Like 80 degrees outside
Okay,
is
I sleep
fine.
during the day though. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
problem.
okay.
Part of the problem is that I sleep
Just
during the day,
turn the
and
fan
everybody.
on, multiple fans. You know,
I don't know. You
Sleeping-
have. I can show you my room.
Sleeping
I have
when it's
fans.
hot is really hard. I'll give you
Yeah.
that. It's really hard.
I'm thinking about getting a window unit just to add another level of just making it colder.
falling asleep while you're like just sweating.
It's
Yeah,
the worst.
it's the
Sucks.
worst. It's the worst. The worst.
Oh, our AC went out last summer,
Oof.
and our room, mine and Kyle's bedroom, because of where it is, didn't get as hot as the rest of the house. It was still hot, but it didn't get as hot. So all 3 kids slept in there with us for like 5 nights. It was awful. It was so terrible because it was like in the heat of summer, of course.
Right. That's always the time it picks to drop out.
What made you
the
think
worst.
about the catabolic and anabolic thing?
Um,
Did you get
kind
a
of what we were
question?
talking. Yeah, kind of. Well, no, not exactly. Sort of, I guess. Kind of what we were talking about leading up to this is like, why do people think they need to run when they want to lose weight? Well, it
Yeah.
is like anti-tissue. It breaks down tissue, but it also breaks down muscle mass, like we were talking about. I just think that'd be like a really good thing to make sure people are aware of, like anabolic, like resistance training,
let's
strength
define
training.
catabolic and anabolic really quick, just so people understand the two.
Basically, to put it as simple as possible, the breakdown of tissue versus like the building of tissue.
So
Yeah.
so catabolic, you are breaking it down. Anabolic, you're building it up,
Yeah.
basically.
Catabolic is the scary one. Anabolic is our friend.
Yes.
Funny because a lot of people just want to be smaller humans. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
a lot of women.
a lesser.
Yeah.
You're a lesser human.
Yeah,
Whatever
which
you are.
You're running, you're breaking it down, and you're not feeding yourself. You know, you're breaking down tissue, all that stuff. So, anabolic resistance training, eating proper amounts of protein, all of those things. You're going to be building tissue, which you think about like losing weight. Is that a good option? Then, and my argument is in the long term it is, because you're building muscle mass by, you know, training in that way and then feeding yourself so that you can repair those damages. That's what you're doing when you're, you know, lifting weights. And then your metabolism is higher, and then you will burn body fat if you're not overfeeding yourself.
Well, and two, like, so, like, say you do enjoy, say you really like running. You're one of those people that just enjoys that level of
I
pain.
like that every once in a while. I like to run,
Right.
but once in a while.
Right, once in a while. But say you're one of those people that just really enjoys it. It's your most favorite physical activity. The cool part is that if you, a lot of times there's this misconception that like, oh, if I start lifting weights, my running is going to suffer. And it's like, well, no, if you actually have a good program and you're working for that, your running will get better. It'll be less painful. It'll be more efficient because your
big one.
muscles are really good. Like if you build up your muscles and you get stronger, you build a little, not a ton of muscle mass, you build a little bit of muscle mass to you. Like you're able to then be more efficient in your strides. You're taking less energy to run because your muscles are more efficient in getting the job done. And basically you're then able to get better at something you enjoy doing and get all the other benefits that come with building muscle.
When I'm like really strong, when I feel like I'm really strong and I run, I feel so like incredible. Like, I don't know. I feel stronger, you know. That is I don't know. It's a good
possible
point.
to do both. It's possible to integrate both of those things and to be good at both of those things. It doesn't have to be a one thing only.
You
It's
just
also
did a lot of writing there.
well.
Evan is writing a book over there.
Well, I'm trying to think of trying to make it a little bit simpler. Like as far as the like reasons that you want to be more anabolic or grow versus catabolic, and everything that you do in a positive way will increase your metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people hear that stuff on the news and like, oh, I'm doing this to increase my metabolism. So if you're not lifting weights and you're not eating enough and you're not sleeping enough and you're not reducing your stress, then you need to like Google like several definitions of metabolism.
Right.
So if you're not doing all those things, then you're kind of missing the boat. We're not even talking about like what exercises and not running or not doing too much cardio or anything like that. That's exactly what bodybuilders do. They eat not necessarily too much, but they eat just a little bit too much and they train just a little bit, not necessarily too hard, but they're training to grow as much as humanly possible. And then they do a very, very precise kind of cut for a show and they get really unhealthy. They may look like beautiful people, but they're not. Ask them how they feel during
They'll
that
tell you,
moment. But that period is such a small period of like, I don't know, perfectionists with this world. It's such a small period of time that everyone else like focuses on that stuff. And it's like, I mean, the wrong spot to look into.
Yeah.
You know, you definitely don't want to. You don't want to continue eating in a caloric deficit because you're going to continue lowering your metabolism, which is not a good thing.
I mean, your body is always adapting. So your body will adapt to the lower calories. It will adapt to the higher, you know, the running load that you're putting on it, or whatever your steady state cardio of choice is.
Right.
But your body is really good at that. It will just get used to it, and that's why you hear of people. I mean, everyone can think of somebody they know that's ran for years and years and years. They're still overweight. Mm-hmm. They're like eating hardly anything. They're still not losing weight. It's like, well, your body's gotten used to that, you know, and you have to give it a different challenge, kind of like you were talking about before, with different modes of training.
There was an interesting study that again I was looking at that it was talking about like the inconsistencies in like self-reporting in terms of well, and that's part of it because like people are like, oh, like I'm only eating 1,000 calories or whatever, and I think they were showing that people that were generally on the obese side of the BMI scale were misreporting by 1,000 potentially up to 1,000 calories pretty consistently.
Yeah.
And then someone that was kind of more in the overweight category was in the 2 to 400, 2 to 500 calorie range in terms of over or under reporting. Basically like, oh, I'm only eating this much. Well, in actuality, you're actually eating this much. And that matters a little bit when you're talking about those people that do track.
Long term, it obviously matters just because, you know, you may end up on that TV show where you're a little bit too big, you know?
Right.
Biggest loser.
Yeah.
Well,
no, or he's talking about like my 600-pound
life.
life or whatever. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you, I always kind of think, as far as, you know, underreporting, I always think of like percents, you know, like 50%, you know, is like probably worst case scenario.
Right.
If you are, you know, a little bit off, I mean, 50%.
It's a big deal.
That's a big deal every day. I mean, that's a big deal. And so then if you're
2,000 versus 4,000.
yeah. So like
Right.
if you're like a little bit better than that, you're still like 20 to 30% off probably.
Right.
And then even if you're on it, you may be like 10% off, 5 to 10% off, like
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
Right. And because, I mean, tracking is difficult and actual, you know, accurate tracking
It is
of
very
everything
difficult.
you're putting together. Like, it's difficult. And it's even harder if you are like making real food, because then you've got all kinds of different
'Cause you don't
variables.
ha-
You're not just scanning the barcode.
It's so hard. Yeah.
You know, and whatever.
I just listened to a podcast with Jillian Michaels, and I like her, and I liked what she was having to say. Like,
Mixed feelings on her.
I know that's kind of what I felt, but like overall, she was very like keto doesn't work. Like,
That's surprising.
yeah, like you know, all these diets basically it doesn't
Right.
work. Like, you have to track your food if you want to lose weight. You have to track your food, and I'm like, yeah, it's so easy just to say that, but unless you eat the same dang thing every single day, it's really, really hard. I like to
Right.
make a salad and clean out my fridge,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like, oh, let me weigh this carrot.
Right.
Are you kidding? Let me shred it up. How much did I not use of the carrot now?
Right.
You know, it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I would spend all day on my phone,
Trying
like
to do the math. and
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be insane.
It's ridiculous.
And-
How do you have time for anybody else?
Right. I don't. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're also, you're a little, it is what it is. You're a little self-absorbed whenever you do that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like how much of life or family are you missing out on because you're counting so much or you're actually weighing and stuff? And we're
Right.
not even talking about bodybuilders. We're not talking
Right.
about the competition. We're just talking about you focusing so much on this one thing. And it better be working
Yeah.
Right.
because everyone around you is, I promise, they're looking at you like you're a weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not eating cake. You're going to look like a weirdo to everyone.
Yeah.
Or you're in the corner weighing out your carrots.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like like you're gonna bring, you know, like bags of chicken and food to places. You know, I would not do that. I would just eat something before you go, and then you're not judged. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
but it's
I'm
hard.
full. I didn't time it right. I had a big lunch
Right.
or something. You know, make something up.
I know, but eating's such a social thing.
It
Like,
is.
that's another thing.
I know it is.
Right.
And it should be, because if you look at the healthiest countries, the blue zones, all that, it's the one thing they have in common. They eat with other people. They
Right.
drink a bottle of wine a day
Yeah.
with like family, and they hang out and they relax, and you know, so it's, I don't know.
Yeah, as much as I like to give Katie a hard time about, you know, France and the French culture, like that is something that I kind of like, and
They
you know,
eat
it was something
rich foods too.
they do. It was something
Yeah.
like my parents tried to make a point of, was like, we always, if at all possible, we had dinner together as a family. Sometimes we'd even have breakfast together as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And that time to kind of turn it into a bit of a social event, like it helps, because you need that connection, of course, you know, just in life. Sorry. I think if nothing else, the pandemic has helped us realize how important the relationships we do have and the depths of the relationships that we have. But like, you're able to slow down, relax, enjoy the meal. Those meals are events for French people, you know, in general. Like, that could be a multi-hour event, just dinner time, and that's a normal thing. Now, not saying we all need to do that, but having that time to sit down, slow down, only focusing on the food that's in front of you and the people that you're with, allows you to kind of unplug a little bit and to just kind of be in the moment and not always be worrying about 19 million other things.
What are your biggest this is what I think of all the time. And I just try to deter people the best that I can, because they're going to make mistakes, and it's part of life.
We're
you just
human beings.
Yeah, you just want to deter them from like making like a bigger mistake. I'm like, I know you're going to do this, and you're going to smash your face in the wall, and you're going to keep doing it until you either figure it out or you listen to me. So, what are your biggest red flags as far as the catabolism goes?
Like with other people, you mean?
Yeah, just in general. I mean, I have a list of stuff. If you guys, I can just start rattling them off. But some of the biggest red flags, if you know that someone's going down the road of, for example, whenever I was talking about the guy who said, I'm going to stop lifting weights and I'm going to run, I'm just like, red flag.
Yeah.
A lot of them, and I can explain why. And I made a list on the board. I'm like, these are all the things you want to do. These are all things you don't want to do. I mean, this is really simple stuff.
Yeah.
Just look at it. And this is the stuff that I'm thinking of all the time, and I know you guys are too, that people don't know.
The people are working out, and they're like, oh, you need to sit down and get really lightheaded. And I'm like, what have you eaten today? They're like, nothing. I'm like, it's 4:00. I'm fasting. Okay. Do you know how to do that right? Like,
or it's
Fasting.
It's
No, you're
before
not.
noon and you've only had 400 calories or whatever, and it was in a
Yeah,
shake.
you forgot, or you are just not eating. You're not fasting.
trying-
Don't say you're fasting
trying to
unless
lose
you're
weight.
actually doing it.
Yeah.
Doing
the fasting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a good one. Good
yeah.
one. Well, what else you got?
Yeah. What else?
Okay, so really just too much exercise in general. Even the best people on the planet who can go like too much, too far, lift too much all the time, run too much, whatever exercise, they can get away with stuff, and then people end up thinking that, oh, I can do that too. No, you can't. No one else on earth can do what they do. That's why they're
To the top of the top.
best in the world.
Yeah.
Or they built, or if nothing else, they built up to that.
Yeah,
like
and
they didn't just decide, oh, I'm now going to go run an ultra marathon. They've taken years to build up to.
And
now
they
I'm running 200 miles.
also
in a
have
week or
made like
whatever.
1,000 mistakes along the way, and then once you finally read their book, they're like, oh man, they struggle with this. Yeah, no crap, they did.
Right.
But so too much exercise in general, so too much cardio, too much lifting weights, it causes too much damage.
Right.
And if it causes too much damage, that is too much stress. That you need more sleep and more food, and honestly, it just gets to a point
Better
where
food.
yeah.
So how do you differentiate to people between too much exercise and not being sedentary? You know what I mean?
So-
Like,
Get off your butt is
Okay, that's what I
is-
mean,
Is
but
to get away from being sedentary.
how many people think that that's exercise? Like, I did yard work all day. That's enough exercise for today.
That's good activity.
Yeah.
I mean, bare minimum, you need to lift weights 1 to 2 days a week. And if you're not lifting weights 1 to 2 days a week, I mean, look up the research. There's nothing positive that's going to happen in your life. You need to try to build muscle and build your skeleton.
Right.
So I would say that's the kind of best way to explain don't be sedentary. As far as too much, man, that's a lot harder to answer.
Right.
Do you have something you want to throw in real quick?
Well, on the front of like basically looking at it as like, okay, we want people to increase the amount of physical activity
Just
they're getting in their
read
lives.
the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears, and that's the answer.
Well, because like so you want to increase the amount
love
of
that.
of
You say that all the time.
Simple stuff. Child stories, they explain a lot.
you want to increase the amount of non-exercise physical activity while like making sure that you're managing the fact that, okay, like just going for a walk, going for a hike, doing parking farther away at the grocery store so you have to walk farther, where you're just increasing the amount of physical movement you're getting.
I park
But
further
not
away from the grocery store
necessarily-
just to stay away from people.
Agreed. Same.
It's
100%.
not even an
I
exercise
do
thing.
because I usually have one child screaming, and I'm trying to just give everyone some
some time.
space.
so no one can hear it.
That's not true. It's probably screaming for other reasons.
I
Anyways.
told you not to do that in the store.
But no, and because the thing is that if a lot of times people have this idea that like I need to exercise endlessly in order to be that's what I need to do to increase my physical activity, and it's like no, like simply increasing just your body's movement is good, and then adding in resistance training and then once you adapt and you get comfortable with that, okay, now we can add in a little bit more running or a little bit more lifting or another day, and it's a building process.
I just feel like I'm always really careful to tell people to like not exercise too much, because I don't want people to take that as like, well, my trainer says I need to sit on the couch more because I'm exercised already today.
It's
or
a
I'm taking
definition
nap
between,
or
I guess,
whatever.
like how do we define exercise?
it's individualized,
Right.
for sure. Because I worked out Saturday morning, and I just had Blake with me. So, like, it was an hour workout, and it was Saturdays are a little bit harder. Then we went over to the park, and I hiked the whole trail with her on my back. She's like a 25-pound weight, you know, but it's like a hill. And I was out of breath
Oh,
at
yeah.
certain points, and I'm sweating. And this old man passed me. He said, I do this trail 3 loops every single day. And I got to the end, and I thought, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine doing that again, like, you know, twice.
You know,
It
this
is awesome.
I don't want to interrupt, but a few months ago, I went camping somewhere, and I was hiking up this trail it was honestly pretty difficult. And I'm walking with a coffee, just like chilling, not sweating or anything like that.
Yeah.
Everyone coming down looked at me, and I didn't even notice. Like, they would walk by and they would just kind of look at me, and then under their breath, they would be like, "Oh my God, this guy's drinking coffee." And I'm like, I'm not saying I'm a beast. I'm not. I would be like a pathetic hiker, to be honest. But I just do way more than these people normally do.
Yeah.
And that's just a little bit of activity.
Well, and you
to
live
me.
in the hills of Brown County.
Yeah,
and run up
that's
and down
kind of
those
my
things and
point.
Carry things around.
Is
Yeah.
I can handle like one hike, like drinking coffee. It's no big deal. I don't have my hiking poles and stuff like that. And these people are
Yeah.
just dying. I thought it was hilarious.
I just thought it was kind of funny because this guy was wearing like jeans. Like, you could tell he does it every day. Like, you know, you could just tell. And I just thought, like, I think I'm in pretty good shape, and I'm pretty used to carrying her around and
Right.
stuff. Like, that's abnormal, but this is actually a work. You know, I feel like I'm kind of working. I can't imagine somebody that's in good
That's
shape
awesome.
trying to do this. You
I
know?
just put together like a little program for a buddy of mine, and like one of the things that I included in there was like active recovery days, and I like specifically said, like, I want you to rest, but I don't want you to be inactive on this day.
Right, that's a
go
good
for a
point.
walk, go for a hike, you know. And one of the workout days is a planned ruck style kind of deal where it's just like go to the park, you know, with a weight vest, or go to the park with a backpack and just do, you know, you got to do a mandatory 2 laps or whatever around there, and just to, because you need the activity. Even if it is a rest day, I still want physical activity. I don't want it to just be a slob day.
I love the movie Shrek when he says onions have layers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the
That is a movie
Goldilocks
I've seen.
thing. Yeah, well, very good.
Many times.
But
It's a great movie.
you know what you're talking about. Like, there's no negative consequence to being in better shape. Now,
No.
you can take it too far, which we talked about. That's being catabolic. Whenever someone wants to do, you know, like more stuff, I always think more anabolic, less catabolic, and you'll be fine.
Right.
But no one knows what that is. And that's kind of what we're trying to explain. But if you want to do more stuff, you can absolutely always do more stuff. And there will be a limit of, if you're not progressing, then you're doing too much. Doesn't
You're
matter
limited
what it
by
is.
your recovery.
Absolutely. But
Stay fed.
Yes.
if you're too sore all the time,
Stay fed, stay slept.
Yeah.
then
Stay
you know,
rested.
like I was
Rested.
working on my truck this weekend, and I was on the ground, and for hours I was lifting my head up, and I was using like my abdominals the whole
Yeah.
time. So I'm still sore from it. Like,
Got a pump.
really sore.
Got a little
like,
neck pump.
my neck and my abs are super sore because I don't do those things.
Right.
But if I did those, you know, like if in one day I wasn't doing that for 6 hours, that's stupid.
Right.
You know, that's why I'm so sore. I didn't do it in a workout, and you know what I
Right.
mean? I can recover from that fine.
Right.
But eating too little protein, that's massive.
Yeah.
Because you're not replenishing muscle tissue.
Unless you have a diagnosed kidney issue, there is no, I feel like I can say this quite safely, there's not any good documented like negatives
There's-
to eating
there-
more protein.
To my knowledge, there's no documented research that shows that less protein is better for
No,
any
no,
any,
no, no.
any population for any reason
Yeah.
at all.
No.
That could be the end of the podcast. But next is
Mic drop. Can't drop these
too little
things.
calories. If you don't eat enough calories, then that's catabolic.
Yeah.
You're becoming a lesser human. That's
Yeah.
what I joke and say lesser human. I don't mean like you're not being a good person. It's you're getting smaller.
Okay, so let's talk about people that are overweight, you know,
Yeah.
like obese.
Yeah.
What do you say then? You
As,
want them.
as far as eating less calories.
Yeah.
Okay. People who are overweight, honestly, what they need to do is they don't need to worry about math yet. You need to go buy a notebook, and whatever you had for breakfast, write it down. Whatever you have for lunch, or your 10 snacks a day, or whatever, you need to see what you're eating
Yep.
so that you know, oh my gosh, I ate 5 Snickers bars today. I guarantee you, if you just looked at what you ate and you maybe had to show it to someone, you're going to find some weak spots.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
And then just slowly improve that over time.
Yeah.
It's a huge eye opener for people to either just simply write it down or take pictures of it,
Yeah.
or because like I think a lot like we talked about before, a lot of people don't realize
Yeah.
they're not cognizant of what's going on. They're just mindlessly going about
like
their day.
Jared, this is a hypothetical kind of thing, but let's say that you bought donuts for the guys like every single Wednesday. And you ate 4 donuts every single Wednesday. Do the math on those calories, and after a month, maybe Jared gains a pound of fat a month, and over the course of 6 months, it's like, man, Jared's looking a little chunky. You know what I mean? And it's like, Jared, what have you been doing lately? I'm like, working out the same, sleeping the same, everything's the same.
Just donuts on Wednesday.
Just donuts. You see what I mean? If Jared was writing down, what did I eat? Oh, you know what? Wednesday is kind of different, so I forgot to write that down. I ate 4 mother effing donuts every single week, and that adds up.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and not donut holes, like real donuts.
Right.
But I would say that if someone's overweight, they need to know what they're eating. And then we can try to improve on it. You know, like there are a million ways to do it, but they need to know what they're eating. And it's not necessarily right or wrong, but it's a little bit better or a little bit worse without being too hard on them.
Yeah.
Because you can easily be too hard on someone who's overweight because they've done so many things incorrectly for so many years. They've developed these habits. They really have this identity that nothing's worked. And it's like, you either didn't trust someone or you didn't take it far enough, just far enough for that it worked, that you felt the success, that you saw the success. But that's a tough one because they do need to probably limit calories, but it's from some junkier crap that they're eating.
Yeah, because I'm a big believer, and I'd love for anyone to really protest this, but when I feel like when people are overweight like that, there's something going on. Like they are eating for a reason that doesn't make sense, and that would show them that, you know, like you can't just say, oh, I'm going to eat this now and then I'll do better at lunch. Oh, I'm going to eat this now and I'll do better at dinner, because it never ends. You never do better,
never ends,
you know. So yeah, I think that's a really good.
Well, I have so many. Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, and some of that comes to the point of like, you know, there's usually an area in our lives that we're mismanaging something, and so like if we're not managing stress well, we're not managing other these things, and so then that comes out in, okay, now I'm eating because I'm feeling this way because I haven't figured out a better mechanism to deal with my emotions or deal with my stress. And on the front of like talking about like consistency, what we were talking about earlier, the kind of idea of comfort is when we start getting into being uncomfortable, there's more research that have been done on it, and I haven't dug into it a lot, but there's a psychological mechanism that starts when you start getting uncomfortable, and your brain wants you to get back to what's comfortable. And so if you're eating less, your brain is going to start freaking out because your body's like, oh, what's going on? Like I'm not getting the normal amount of calorie intake that I'm used to. So, and your body doesn't know any better. Your body thinks that like there's a catastrophic event that's happened.
I heard this podcast where Aaron said, stay fed. So
right.
Go eat.
And so like your brain starts kind of not really playing tricks on you, but like that's part of the reason why people have so much trouble sticking with diets, because they start listening to like, oh, now my hunger sensations are increasing because my brain is trying to tell me to eat more because, you know, my body wants to stay at homeostasis, which was this particular maybe potentially unhealthy body weight or unhealthy fat level. And so now all of these things are going to be acting against the goal that you have. And that requires you to then kind of lean into that discomfort versus giving into what you feel like your body wants to do right then, because at that moment in time, your body is your physiological and your just the way that we've developed over, you know, years of surviving wants to go back to, you know, what we've been at, what homeostasis was for us.
The problem with that is intuitive eating is like a huge thing right now. And that's your intuition telling you it's time to eat. You know what I mean? Like people can make that argument.
People,
you have to earn intuitive eating, I feel like.
Education is the answer. I mean, you have to learn why certain foods make you more hungry? Why, all this stuff. You have to learn so that
here's a good example.
If I want to be intuitive, I just want to sit on the couch and eat ice cream. That's what my body wants to do.
Well, feed kid a bunch of junk and then
kids are the greatest example.
See them throw a fit whenever they're not eating something good.
Yeah.
The end of the story.
Yeah.
They're not crying for more like super healthy thing. More, so and so likes broccoli, and it's like all the time. Would they rather have cereal? Yeah, probably 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
They'd rather have some kind of sugar. And there are a million studies with animals. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But guess what? Whenever someone is not in a super positive mental state and they're a little bit stressed, that's when they always turn to drugs. That's whenever they always turn to super high sugar diets and stuff like that. Some kind of
coping mechanism.
Yes, because, like they looked at the famous studies. It's like, like rats will, go to, eating sugar and blah, 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 blah. There was this famous guy that, like, I don't know, he did a lot of research on rats, and he said, that is not how rats act. Let's put them in an environment where the rats are around like family of rats. They're not isolated, and they don't have physical activity. So they put them with like a family of rats where they had a lot of physical activity, and it was like a kind of like a nurturing kind of place for these rats.
It was a relaxed environment.
They went for the sugar the first time, never needed it again, ever. I bet no one's ever heard that.
No.
But no one wants to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It was because you're basically like they were in an environment that wasn't stressful.
Yes.
That was actually like well managed.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to substitute that.
I have a funny story. Trust me, guys, this is not me trying to be tough or anything like that. But when I was in the military, I was telling somebody this the other day. As far as eating like bad stuff, whenever my buddies got, like Chips Ahoy or Oreos or I can't remember the brands, but the crackers with peanut butter, like whether they're orange or the little circle ones.
Yeah.
I don't know the brand names, whatever, Peter Pan crackers.
Right. I have no
anyway,
idea.
so sometimes my buddies would get those in the mail, and I would eat like all of them. I wouldn't just eat like, this is a package of like 6 crackers. No, I would eat like a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And if there was ever like a package of Oreos, I had like 3 Oreos and I was done. No, I had 30. Whatever's in a sleeve or 2.
Oh yeah.
Well, here's the thing is I'm not kidding. I didn't know if I was going to get Oreos ever again. So stress mattered.
Yeah.
That's my point is I did not care.
Yeah.
I was going to eat as many Chips Ahoy cookies as I possibly could, and I did not care at all. I wanted them. Yeah. And I know that, like, my mom's chocolate chip cookies are way better. They didn't exist.
Right.
So I was eating a ton of bad stuff when I was stressed, and I did not even care if I had a little, like, weight gain and stuff like that. There were other things to worry about. But that's a good example of, like, how stress plays into me, like, not really rationalizing like, what I'm eating. I didn't care.
Right. Honestly, that's kind of the way, evolutionary speaking, that we are designed to be, though. Like people like to talk about hunter-gatherers, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you really didn't know when your next meal was coming. So you are designed to overeat the things in front of
available.
You. Yeah. And like, it might be a while till you kill another buffalo or whatever the heck they were doing back then.
on the stress thing, that's kind of, I'm gonna insert that study we were talking about earlier. So there's a study that was done by, and there's a lady that's done a lot of research with it, Rachel Hotman. But basically they looked at like brain scans and brain waves after different doses and time spent in nature, and basically they call it the nature pyramid. And so essentially, how long did you spend, and then in what type of nature, and what kind of effect did that have on your brain and on the kind of how you process things? So you kind of look at the baseline of this pyramid, and basically it's 20 minutes a day, 3 times a week, and that was associated with less stress, less burnout, and that was at like what we would think like a city park level of exposure. So you're not. And what this kind of brings into account is the amount of external stimulus that you're getting is a huge part of this. So city park level, we're talking about, you can still kind of hear some cars. You're not super duper isolated. Maybe your phone is still in your pocket. Maybe it rings a little bit during that 20-minute period, but for the most part, you're staying off of it.
Right.
During that 20 minutes. And
So you're not like distracted.
Right. You're not incredibly distracted. Yeah, there's more people around, so you're getting a little more stimulus. So like I said, that 20 minutes, 3 times a week, they were showing people were reporting less stress, less burnout, things of that nature at that city park level.
Yeah.
So then you move to the next level of that, and they talk about 5 hours a month, and this is going to be cumulative, and so however you wanted to break that up. But this 5 hours a month is going to be at like the state park level. Yeah. So a little bit
not
bigger.
necessarily a 5-hour hike.
Right. So it's a little bit, now it could be, but it's a little bit bigger of an environment. So they have a less distractions. What they showed with this was there was less depression. People were reporting less depression, and having, less issues with those portions of their life, and had an increased sense of well-being. And so same idea, you have less input, you have less stimulus, and you're seeing these positive changes. So then the kind of the top of the pyramid, the smallest portion of this, is something that they called the
Is Captain Fantastic.
Right. This is something they called the 3-day effect. And basically what that is 3 days in nature, basically completely off the grid, not paying attention to anything. And what they saw was that actually altered brain waves. So you went from being in a beta wave where you're stressed out, you're go, go, go. And at that 3-day period, you go to alpha waves. So you had a more feeling of calm. You were more collected after having that time being spent in the wilderness. And there are people like Katie and I talked about this a little bit. So she did a hike in Spain. And basically like it was like 12 or 13 days long of just hiking and doing stuff. And she said after about day 3, she felt that shift. And basically felt like she was able to focus more on what was going on in front of her. She felt this sense of calm and all these other things that kind of came with those benefits after that 3-day effect. And so there's something to be said for, in terms of stress management, giving yourself that opportunity to get away from stuff and getting into nature as a mechanism for managing stress and for making your recovery more effective.
I wonder what the questionnaire initially was like. I want you to list your stressors and then go out in nature and come back and see if you care about those things.
Well, so basically what they did was they basically had those brainwave monitors that they basically put on people and sent them out into the wilderness and basically like
that
reported.
Would be stressful in itself.
I would love to see these little
for sure
Martians walking around.
Well, because how else you got to monitor brainwaves, so you got to have a way to monitor it. But yeah, and that's what they saw was these changes, these significant changes in basically brain chemistry after 3 days, and it's like,
how long until it went back to the way it was?
I have no
Just
idea.
One day in real life.
Oh, I'm sure. One time, you pick your phone up, one time scroll through Facebook, and now you're back in your beta waves. I'm sure, because it's just instant stress spike.
Do you guys want to mention anything fun, or I can wrap up on the anabolic and catabolic stuff?
We should probably wrap on something fun, but
that's probably not fun. So I'll mention this, and then we'll say something else fun.
Oh,
so just to let you guys know,
pressure's on you, Aaron, for something fun.
At the end of the day, anabolic is a good thing. It's going to build not necessarily just muscle mass, but healthy tissue for the body that your body needs, whether you're aware of it or not.
Right.
And catabolic is going to destroy any kind of lean tissue. So if you're not doing things well, your body is absorbing your lean tissue. That's what happens whenever you go to the hospital. Whenever you have an injury, you're going to be thankful you were doing all these anabolic things to build lean tissue. It's going to help you get out of bed. It's going to help you walk your butt out of the hospital one day. But if you just keep wanting to be a lesser and lesser human, when you're in the hospital bed that one day, you're going to think, I probably could have done better. And, you don't have to obsess about this stuff, but it's serious,
Yeah.
It really is.
And there's plenty of instances where, somebody's had some kind of a traumatic injury or catastrophic event, and, a lot of times their fitness level is attributed to this is why they recovered or this is why they survived.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Regardless of whether or not they were in the gym or they were a famous, like sport enthusiast or something like that, they were probably just a little more active and they ate a little bit better, and they maybe didn't care or try, but those things allowed them to have more muscle mass and stronger skeleton, and they could do stuff.
And it better prepares your body for trauma.
There's no
sickness.
downside.
Not one I've ever found.
There isn't one.
No.
Mm-mm.
Unless you're in a sport where you can't meet 175, you need to be 165.
This quote was in the sermon yesterday too. What was it exactly? Exercise doesn't take time away from your life. It puts life into your time.
Oh, that's great.
That's
like
good,
that.
isn't
job.
it?
Well
Yeah.
done. I like that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
I can't believe I remembered that.
That's
Good job.
That's
Well,
a good one.
It's so true because like what else are you you're always finding something to fill that time. And that's
Yeah.
something that like again this can go into a whole other thing, but like talking about like boredom. Like we don't get bored anymore. We always find something to fill that time. You know, we always can pick up our phone or whatever. And so like if you're exercising and finding
Man.
and doing something that's actually a good positive builder, you're actually then okay. You're adding quality and adding more. What's the word I want? Like substance, I guess, to the time you are awake and doing stuff.
I kind of think
So just-
like the TikTok. I know some people are probably gonna think I'm poking the bear with this stuff, but TikTok trends. You know, like I was talking to someone the other day, and they said, "Oh, I spend so much time on TikTok. It like there's the app.
It's a TikTok portal.
Tells you to like go away. Like,
Really?
Like stop using
What?
TikTok." And like you need to be active and stuff like that. You know, like your watch will say you need
Man,
to get
it's
up and move.
100% not an Asian or not an American company. It is an Asian
It is hilarious. I'm like, you're on TikTok
For 2
that
hours,
long
2.5?
at a time?
Yeah.
Like, and the whole boredom thing, and it's like,
There's a lot of really positive
even
things for
TikTok
boredom.
tells you need to find a new
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah, you need to make a TikTok now.
Anything else. And I'm like, or you just need to design the new app that everyone wants to do and like, you know, erase that part of the app.
Or you need to just,
Kids are a great example for all of this stuff. Like, entertain a kid for 3 days straight. Don't let them be bored at all. See what kind of kid you have because they're a terror. I promise you. I mean, I know the kids that, you know, Scarlett's starting to like play with friends and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you are never like
Not
your parents
stimulated.
entertain you all the time. Like or with
Constant
a
stimulus.
device or whatever. Like I make my kids be bored. And they tell me they're
They
bored.
ha-
I'm
they ha-
like, good.
Yeah, they have to
Good.
Go
learn
figure out
how
something to
be
do.
by themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
go figure it. Go like well, and there's so many things that are created out of that boredom time because your mind is thinking of other things.
Yeah.
You're exploring your own creativity and you're able to like have your even if
this
your mind
day,
just
my-
quiets down. That's cool.
My favorite thing is to like ride in a car and look out the window for like a long trip. That's my favorite thing to do. I mean, I feel like when I was a kid, I did so much thinking during that time. And now kids are just like,
You know what's
can I watch a movie on the TV? Can I have a phone? Can I have the tablet? Can I blah, blah, blah.
For
blah, blah.
me, in the same scenario, I actually don't really think. I'm just enjoying the moment and
Yeah,
like
I believe
probably,
that.
Probably de-stressing, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think that much. But I enjoy it though.
Kyle's like that one. I didn't even realize people don't think
He's not thinking.
until I was.
bet he's thinking
Potato.
about something.
Remember potato.
Yeah, I know, but that's like a 9 thing and a 6 thing.
I don't know.
like-
That's a
Kyle
guy
doesn't
thing. I think that's a
think.
guy thing.
Okay.
He does not.
You literally just said he
Ouch.
doesn't think.
when
Does
we
he
were-
ever listen to these podcasts?
No, probably not. When we were dating, I was like, you know, what are you thinking right now? Like just random times, he's like, nothing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You're
I get
thinking
asked that
about
all the time.
things?
What's on your
Nothing.
mind? That wall color. Like I don't know. Whatever I was looking at. Like nothing. Nothing
Yeah.
at all.
That's funny.
Sixes go to nines in health or in stress? It's in health.
Health.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
Maybe it is a good
3 in
thing.
stress. I think.
Yeah, that's true.
that's interesting.
For those of you guys that didn't know that, those are Enneagram things.
Yeah.
We'll talk about.
Well, I
those at
just
some
think
point.
like the, you know, like
Next
since
podcast,
the
hopefully.
6 is like a head type that he's probably thinking more than he.
I know.
But I don't know. I think 7s and 5s are way more of that.
That's probably
Right?
super healthy though. Just
100%
then.
always
Yeah.
thinking.
If
Yeah.
you can have
And
a
I noticed
6,
even my language, like I'm like, I say thinking. I don't ever say feeling. I
Right.
never say I'm feeling blah 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 because
Yeah.
I don't feel.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
So Kyle doesn't think and Aaron doesn't feel.
I'm sure he does. He
He does.
I mean, he's a thought type too, for
Right.
sure. Like, we like
funny.
overthink. No, we don't overthink. Let me just clarify that. Like everything is
sure?
like we're thinking about, but we're thinking about different things.
Lots of options.
I'm thinking about how everything's gonna be amazing, and he's thinking about everything's gonna go to hell. Whatever.
But anyway. Yeah, it's all good.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, Enneagram next time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So for those of you guys that are curious and have heard us refer to numbers on occasion, we're gonna dig into the Enneagram
Feel like you got all
Um,
that checked off the list,
a
or
little
what?
bit.
Yeah.
Evan's marking his list out.
All right.
Right. So, as always, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for making it to the end. If If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the comment section. Send us a DM. Consider to send us emails. I've got a few good emails with questions and stuff, so I meant to share those with you guys. I apologize. My work schedule's been flipping around.
Thinking.
That is accurate. I'm like literally.
Jared sat down to put his headphones on to record this podcast, and there
Without
was
the
no
camera.
Yeah, not even set up. Like I was.
Jared, do we need the camera?
Rough night. Rough couple nights.
Well, if you looked at Jared's phone, you would be able to tell.
So
it's in rough shape.
Yeah, that could be a story for another day.
Yeah.
Once that court case is settled. But anyway.
So the next podcast, we're going to be having beverages. It's going to be casual.
Yes.
And we're not going to cuss.
It's going to be very relaxed. I believe in us. But anyway, continue to reach out, guys. Continue to review on Apple Podcasts. We've got a lot of good reviews and feedback there. Comment on the YouTube channel. If you guys have directed questions, partycast@gmail.com, PRTYCAST@gmail.com. Like I said, we've got a lot of good emails and stuff in there that we will continue to work through getting your questions answered. You guys got anything else to finish up with?
Mm-mm.
All right. Everybody have a good week. See you next time. Thank you for tuning into this episode of PartyCast. Check us out on your favorite podcasting site. And remember, each episode is also available on YouTube. Thank you for joining us on this adventure, and we will see you next time.